So when we talk about AI use cases, there are two main factors that need to be considered. One is the offer, and then is who the offer is being offered to, which is the market. And the market obviously consisting of different nodes of psychological similarity to the customers, right? Or at least the decision makers of the company that you sell to. Now, what's most important? If you ask a beginner, I would say the offer. And that might be true, but the market is also very important. Now, in the beginning, if you just have a good offer, it will work. It will work to get you at least to the first paying clients, even in a bad market. But generally speaking, overall, it's much better to pick the right market in the first place, or at least to have some understanding about the market that you're going into. That's where I feel videos like these are crucially important for somebody to take in and take a look at, because there are different industries that are beneficial, and other industries that come with certain challenges that you may not necessarily anticipate unless you've been in the space for a while. So if you're just recently entering the space, there might be some pieces of understanding that you haven't quite fully considered yet. So with that, medical, for example, it is generally speaking great advice to sell to people who have money, and doctors fall in that category. On the other hand, they only have so much, right? If you talk to, generally speaking, a practice owner, they tend to be quite technically averse. They tend to be very risk averse, usually speaking. And it's generally speaking a heavily regulated industry. So in the UK, in Europe, you deal with GDPR, and especially in medical, like doctors are horrified by the fear of being sued by a patient. And so should they be. I mean, it's, medical malpractice is certainly bad, but what I mean is, they're generally speaking very much risk averse. And so, if you come to them and they are less technically inclined and less interested in AI, as well as very hard to approach, if you go to the average GP and try to sell them AI automations, very, very challenging. I've yet to really see this work. And so, that's a challenging market to serve, although theoretically speaking, it is a good idea. It is a good idea to choose medical professionals, right? When we started to take a look at SMMA a few years ago, that certainly was the case. If you talk to practice owners, it can work. What is better than a general GP, and is still in the health space, would, for example, be newer growing industries. The med spa industry is growing, for example. We just today had another masterclass by a gentleman who started in that niche. It's also very challenging to get through to them and to build trust with them just because they are so heavily being approached. Because it's one of those industries that ChatGPT for sure will give you out if you ask for good industries to pursue. It's one of those well-known industries, but there are also other more niche industries that you can choose and pick from and take a look at. Some of them may be IV clinics, intervention clinics, right? Peptides that's currently coming, medical weight loss. They generally speaking fall into the med spa niche. But there are also other industries that you can take a look at. Other keywords that come to mind include sculpting, as I showed, medical weight loss, etc. All of these you can certainly approach separately with that messaging in particular. And so, if we're talking about what could the offers be for that industry, what have we seen there? Well, generally speaking, database activation is not a bad idea. If you can find a way to do this compliantly, database activation for med spas is a great use case. Especially since you can also get advertising from these with a very nice scraping tool from Amazon, right? So you can basically pull in what are the best hooks, what are the best angles that other advertisers already are doing and already have spent oftentimes thousands of dollars on testing, right? What the proper hooks would be for that industry. So that is a good industry that you can utilize or that you can go into. We've seen a lot of success with roofing, construction, landscaping, these businesses tend to be receptive more so in regards to regular digital services that where are already known and tested digital offers, like validated digital offers. Social media marketing, for example, website builds. That's generally speaking not a bad idea at all to pursue these ideas. So if you go, for example, in person and you approach a business that is in need of a website, to build them a website, first of all, it's not a bad idea at all to do that. You can open the door with that. And then would be the question, well, how do you deliver the website? Well, there are different ways. You can certainly easily deploy that in your own instance, which gives you also some hand over the maintenance fee, although you don't want to hold the business hostage because, in terms of referrals, it's probably worth more to risk not doing practices in which you hold the business hostage, but rather optimize for the brand reputation with these clients so that they may refer you to other businesses that might be the better option there. But generally speaking, going for selling websites to businesses is not a bad idea at all. These are good use cases, and so all of that is something that you can consider, especially when you approach them and you have the website already ready and you can show them what it would look like to have a whole portfolio that you can scroll through, and all of that you can literally build out over a weekend. Like as we're recording this May 21st, 2026, Claude is going through a little bit of a intelligence regression, but I'm sure it will be back at full capacity very soon. And so these are the use cases that we've seen. This is what is known to work in the marketplace. Although home service companies really want to make sure you come in there as a referral base. Generally speaking, what I can imagine, or like what we've seen works pretty well, is just in-person networking. Optimize the number of rooms that you go into during the week, not on the weekend. It's like if you just increase the surface area of how many businesses you can actually speak to during a week, you will see a lot more results.